Welcome from Valdosta, Georgia. You are watching the 2KU Weekly Podcast, but at the same time, we have, pardon me, I was just eating. We have Division II playoffs as the Blue Ridge Bears take on the top seed in the South region in the Valdosta State Blazers. I'm Type A Joey 101, joined not by Danny V this time, but the Pig Bear is here with me today. And we are just out of a hectic championship week. How are you feeling?
Feeling good in the interception.
Right Immediate. And he's not going to be caught. Touchdown, Blue Ridge.
And he's in for the score. Strike first.
What a way to start the stream. Excuse me. We don't have a long show today, but it's going to be there is some stuff to talk about. Let's start with the championship games. We have, I believe, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17 to go over. We'll really just quickly talk about the MEAC and SWAC and the FCS. North Carolina A&T now 11-2 with a 35-10 win over Howard. Meanwhile, Jackson State improves to 12-1 with a 21-0 win over Grambling. So that sets up our Celebration Bowl. The first bowl game will actually be confirmed to have, as JSU and North Carolina A&T, two of the winningest teams in their respective conferences, will face off. It's going to be an entertaining match. So let's start with the American Championship game, which started us out on Friday. 20-10 the final score. It was Charlotte upsetting Delaware to win their second straight and final conference championship in the AAC, the conference that they and Delaware helped create. Pig, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's tough to see a team in the conference, but hey, at least they left on top.
And then some. The ACC championship game will now move on to. This was a ranked matchup, but it saw a huge upset in Georgia Tech dominating number 11 Wake Forest 21-7. The number 18 Yellow Jackets are 11-2, winning their first ACC conference championship. Pig Bear?
Yeah, with GT winning, really put a dagger into
after picking up a couple at 2nd and 8.
BCS contention.
Motion from the offense.
Tech is locked into a BCS Bowl for sure. Wake will have to wait on other results. A huge upset in the Big East, the biggest points upset of the weekend. Cincinnati was number 3 in the country and 15.5 point favorites to win the Big East championship game. Their only thing in their way was the fact that they had to play Temple, the team who upset UConn 2 years ago in a bigger spread. And 14-7, Temple locks their second BCS spot in 3 years over the number 3 Bearcats. Have we been sleeping on this Temple team?
Yes, 100%. They came into MetLife.
Yes.
And put the hammer down, put the belt down, as the kids say. I will not finish that statement, but hey, they got the victory.
They bring the punter onto the field.
Next up, the Big Ten championship game, a top 10 matchup as number 1 Michigan held off number 9 Indiana. They're not going to be upset twice by the Hoosiers. 13-10, Michigan wins their first conference championship since 2020 and their 34th Big Ten title overall. Indiana, I think, likely still makes a BCS Bowl, being 10-3 and one of the best conferences in football this year. What are the major takeaways from this game?
I mean, you should be in a BCS Bowl from Indiana, and yeah, the Big Ten's powerful conference, and yeah, good job, Michigan.
Michigan, with that win, are likely and Cincinnati's loss, I should add, are locked in to the national championship game. We'll have to wait on who comes next. The Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma State, very famously, it seems like every time this team plays, we have to bring it up, but Oklahoma State made the conference championship for the past 3 years, and now they've lost 3 straight. And again, it was by one score, not in overtime this time, and not in the final second like last year. But Kansas State, number 10 in the country, winning their first Big 12 title since 2002. 2025 over the number 4 Cowboys. What are your takeaways from this game, Pig Bear?
3 in a row is insane. This is the only place where I could ever see this. No, I haven't seen this before. I don't think you'll ever see the likes of it ever again. You can't be so good in the regular season. Just, you know what? The Bade wants to get to the conference championship game. I think that'll be studied at Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma.
Good job, Kansas.
K-State has been good for a little bit. Of course, they made the Big 12 championship before this streak. Back in 2021, they lost to Baylor. But it feels like this Oklahoma State team is cursed at this point.
Yeah.
Because remember, those last 2 times they were undefeated entering the conference championship. This time they were 10-2, and they still couldn't win it. They were number 4. So they've been in the top 5 for 3 straight tries at this. The previous 2, they were number 1. And again, they can't do it. And you got to think your window might be closing at this point. A lot of those players from that 2022 team are gone now. And a lot from the 2023 team are gone now. It is going to be a tough year of reflection for Oklahoma State in 2025. Probably the same for Rice in their final Conference USA championship. The number 8 Rice Owls fell victim to another major upset in overtime. Southern Miss is now 10-3 with a 20-17 upset win. This is, funnily enough, one of the few teams who's been in the CUSA since its founding that's still there. Southern Miss just won their first Conference USA championship. They'd never done it before until tonight, and this might be the biggest win in program history over a top 10 Rice. And that might actually knock Rice out of the BCS. They needed that BCS Buster title in order to get there, and that might be taken by someone else. Pig Bear, your thoughts?
Yeah, Rice, what an ending to that one also. Just crazy night, Friday night. But, good job to SMU. Southern Miss.
USM. Other way around.
USM. Dyslexia. Good job getting the conference championship and sending Rice out.
Do you think this is the last real chance for Rice now that the SEC is looking forward?
Yeah, and well, not in like baseball and academics, because they'll be dominating the SEC in that, Lord knows. But
I mean, it's not impossible, but it's going to be an uphill battle moving forward.
Well, the SEC, it just means less. They say it just means more, but it just means less. Let's be honest with ourselves.
The SEC has had a tumultuous year this season, and that's not changing anytime soon. At least we think. We'll have to see how well those huge teams that disappointed this season will respond. Alabama, Florida, LSU. Will they be able to rebound? To the MAC championship real quick. 24-8. Northern Illinois dominates Miami, Ohio for their first conference championship since 2021 and their 4th MAC title overall. We'll keep going rapid fire here with the Missouri Valley Championship, 27-10. Southern Illinois, now 11-2. They've won back-to-back and now broken Drake's record for the most titles by a current Missouri Valley member with 12. SIU, of course, last time they won back-to-back was from 2010 to 2013. They won 4 straight. Could this team do that again, do you think, Danny? Or Pig Bear?
Yeah, and they can maybe say they're not like us, to be fair.
It's not the first record Drake has had broken this year.
Yeah.
I suspect it. We still have a month left. It might not be the last. To the Mountain West Championship. One of the strangest games I think we saw all season. Boise State upsets number 7 San Jose State. They'll ride out into the Pac-12 with the Mountain West Championship. And in the process, they didn't score a single touchdown. It was all thanks to the leg of Sam Reagan, who was 4 for 4 today, including a 61-yarder, which is the longest we've seen all season. San Jose State, this is their first season in the Mountain West. They'll definitely get more tries at it, but the wait for them will have to be a little longer. How do you think each of these teams is going to adapt to their new ecosystems without each other? Big Bear?
I'm not sure, but Sam Reagan, oh my gosh. I think I'm going to have to put my Heisman vote for Sam Reagan after that performance.
To the Pac-12 championship. With everything happening. Touchdown, Valdosta State. We'll actually come back to the Pac-12 championship real quick. I want to talk about the SEC championship. As number 5 Tulane took on number 14 Auburn. This was no question, really. 24-16, the Green Wave. It was a bit of a shootout, but they held control for most of the game. This is Tulane's first conference championship since 2002. Meanwhile, Auburn, their last one was back in 2020. Tulane is now sitting on the outside. They have to wait for the Pac-12 championship result, which we'll talk about in a second. Pig Bear, your thoughts on this Tulane squad and how they played?
Yeah, I mean, some different circumstances there. This definitely be a team that's in the national championship, but we'll see with the remainder of the conference championship games if they give it a shot.
The Pac-12 championship happened later. It's actually the last game we recorded. We were supposed to record it on Friday.
Yeah.
I wonder why we didn't. From Los Angeles, much like Michigan in the game against Utah, or Michigan in the game against Indiana, Utah struggled quite a bit in this game. Only one touchdown today. Arizona's defense kept them under control. The number 23 Wildcats were 13.5-point underdogs in this one. And they made this appearance count because they weren't sure whether or not they're going to appear here again with Utah moving to the Pac-12 South next season. They played their hearts out, but in the end, Utah secures their undefeated season, 13-0, with a 13-10 win over number 23 Arizona. That will likely finish your national championship. It'll be Utah and Michigan, all most likely. Unless something crazy happens, it should be the two undefeateds left in the country, because you had Cincinnati lose, Tulane lost, Rice lost, San Jose State lost. Those were really the only teams outside of Michigan and Indiana that had a chance in the national championship. Tulane won, but you're right, Tulane won, but it didn't matter since the two unbeatens won. Unfortunately, or thankfully, we avoided a scenario in which Michigan and Utah lost, which likely would have meant that one of the two, either Michigan or Indiana, would make it without winning their conference championship, and they likely would have been joined by, what, a 2-loss Kansas State? A 2-loss Georgia Tech?
Well, Tulane would be in, because they won. But
they did win, yes.
Yeah. So
Thankfully not all of the top teams ended up losing.
Don't worry, I'm going to find a way to rank Tulane in the top two.
Real quick, let's run through the rest of these. James Madison, in another bizarre game, wins 7-3 over Chattanooga to secure a berth in the Camellia Bowl, as well as their final conference championship before the CUSA in 2025. Meanwhile, Chattanooga is probably going to be back. This is probably their best team that they've fielded since the 80s, or since 2001, when they won the conference championship that year. I think Chattanooga, without these other big teams, App State, Georgia Southern, are both gone. Old Dominion is leaving. James Madison's leaving. I think Chattanooga is in place to become the new power in this conference. Thoughts?
Yeah, fair. Also move the SoCon championship out of whatchamacallit?
Nashville?
Nashville, yeah.
Where would we put it then?
The only problem is Charlotte and Atlanta are occupied.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And fitting that it's...
Welcome.
What's up?
Welcome SoCon Championship, Jacksonville.
At least there's a team in Tennessee.
Yeah, fair.
Southland
Unlike,
Championship. Both these teams are
others
leaving.
in life-
Sorry.
Unlike others in real life from last year.
Southland Championship. Both these teams are departing for the WAC next year, but they put on a show today. 16-14 was the final score. West Texas improves to 9-4 with an upset win over Hardin Simmons, knocking them down to 10-3. This was Hardin Simmons' first 10-win season in program history, and they will be riding in to the WAC as one of its favorites. Pig Bear, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Hardin Simmons saying adios to the Southland going to the WAC, a more prestigious conference, but hey, let's see how they do.
As will champion West Texas. These are both expected to be some of the best teams in that new conference. To the Sun Belt. Appalachian State, Pig Bear's own, rode in the conference this year, first season in the Sun Belt, and they put a show on in New Orleans, upsetting Arkansas State 14-7 to nab their first Sun Belt championship. Pig Bear, thoughts?
ACC, call on to Boone. That's all I'm saying. Kidding.
And we wrap with the WAC championship.
But,
Louisiana. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying, that joking around. But hey, 10 years, who knows?
Maybe. Especially if they shed Stanford and Cal.
Yeah.
WAC championship.
Hey, I'm just saying I was in favor of Tulane, App State, and ECU as the 3 editions. When I heard there was going to be 3 editions. That was like, I'll be okay with that.
Nope. Stanford, Cal, SMU. To the WAC championship we go. Louisiana Tech and Hawaii. The Rainbow Warriors winning a great game, 20-17 in their final year in the WAC championship. They have their 5th conference championship, winning their first since 2020. They'll be in the Mountain West next season, alongside, of course, San Jose State, former opponent and recurring opponent, as well as WAC members, New Mexico State, Idaho, and CUSA member UTEP. That'll be the fleet joining the conference next season. It's going to be a very entertaining group to watch. Meanwhile, as for Louisiana Tech, they are the odds-on favorites to win the WAC next season. They'll be tested by Hardin Simmons, West Texas, and potentially a team like Pacific, who performed pretty well. Maybe they have a run in them. But meanwhile, Hawaii with the 12-1 record might sneak their way into a BCS Bowl. Pig Bear, thoughts?
Hawaii's got a shot. Who knows?
That 12-1 is going to help them a lot, as well as the losses by Rice and San Jose State. Up next, let's talk about the College Football Awards. The Heisman Trophy will announce next week's show, but this week we have... this week's show, we have a bunch of other awards to hand out. First off, two more awards for outstanding players. We start with the Maxwell Award. That one goes to Tyrell Thomas, the quarterback from the University of Michigan. This season he was 176 of 284, a 62% passer rating, 4,465 yards through the air, and 53 touchdowns. Impressive numbers for Thomas. Meanwhile, Walter Camp is going to Eli Attaway of San Jose State. The quarterback was 153 for 217, 3,807 passing yards, and 33 touchdowns through the air. Meanwhile, he had over 1,000 yards rushing and 7 scores on the ground. Davey O'Brien Award goes to Tyrell Thomas, who won, who we already talked about, actually. The Doak Walker goes to Ronald Fortune of Oklahoma State. No surprise, he's a Heisman finalist. He had 1482 on the ground and 17 tutties as well, averaging 6 yards per carry. The Blitnikoff Award going to Avery Von Trask of Utah. 44 catches for 1,594 yards and 20 touchdowns. He averaged 36 yards per reception. The John Mackey Award for the second straight year going to A.J. Williamson of Penn State. Over 1,000 receiving yards, 53 catches, and 15 touchdowns. Williamson is likely to be one of the best tight ends off the board this year's draft. The Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award goes to the best senior quarterback in the league, and that's going to Temba Hudson of Cincinnati. He was 190 for 227, 4,246 passing yards, and 43 tutties. Temba Hudson, of course, played in the conference championship for the team, as well as he'll be a Heisman finalist next week. The Outland Trophy for interior lineman going to Lewis McIntosh of Michigan, only allowing 2 sacks all year. The Lombardi Award for the top overall player goes to Avery Von Trask of Utah. We already talked about his stats. The Remington Trophy for best center in the league goes to Brandon Gee of Penn State. He didn't allow a sack all year. The Bednarik Award, Best Defensive Player of the Year, going to Scott Maxey of Iowa. The linebacker had 75 tackles, 6 sacks, 4 hurries, 2 forced fumbles, and 5 TFLs. The Nagurski Award, another award for Defensive Player of the Year, going to Lucky Easton of Wake Forest. You know him from that big interception earlier this year against NC State. He had 71 tackles, 7 sacks, 9 hurries, 3 forced fumbles, 4 TFLs, and 3 picks, including that touchdown. He also takes home the Dick Butkus Award for Outstanding Linebacker as well. Jim Thorpe Award for Best Defensive Back going to Michael Egan of Tulane. 113 targets, 71 tackles, 6 picks, and 3 pick sixes. Ted Hendricks Award for Defensive End of the Year going to Curtis Dupree of Cincinnati. 10 sacks, 17 hurries, 3 forced fumbles, and 20 TFLs. The Lot Impact Trophy for Defensive Player going to Ronald Newkirk of Hawaii. The free safety had 84 tackles, 7 picks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 touchdowns. Campbell Trophy for Top Scholar Athlete going to Alonzo Stark, the quarterback for Rice. He put up some great stats this season, but obviously stats only part of the story as a student athlete. No surprise that a school as prestigious as Rice would produce a top scholar. Walter Camp Award for Player of the Year, we already mentioned, actually. We're going to move to the Lou Groza Award. Pigbear, you mentioned him earlier. Sam Reagan of Boise State is taking this home. The best place kicker in the country. He was 35 for 43 all year. 81.4% of field goals he made. The long, of course, of 61. The Ray Guy Award for Outstanding Punter going to Johnny Ramsey of Western Michigan. We didn't see him this year, but he had 127 punts for over 5,000 yards. His longest was 61. He averaged 43.4 yards a punt. The Paul Hornung Award goes to the most versatile player, and this will go to the two-way player at quarterback and cornerback, Dominic Dreschner of Columbia. He had 152 targets, 76 tackles, 7 picks, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 touchdowns. Making sure those are his stats. Didn't want to copy them from somebody else's. Yeah. That's not even talking about his over 3,000 yards through the air and another 800 on the ground. The Eddie Robinson Award goes to the Coach of the Year in the FCS. This is going to Norman Bright of Monmouth. The Monmouth Hawks are one of the top teams in the FCS this season. They've been playing way over their level, and they're expected to make a deep run in the FCS playoffs coming up. The Frank Boyles Award, Assistant Coach of the Year. This will go to Gene Sheridan, the defensive coordinator at Utah. And we wrap up with our Coach of the Year award, the Home Depot Award going to Javi Mateo, the head coach at San Jose State. No surprise here, San Jose State was undefeated in the regular season and made it as high as number 7. Excuse me. Pig Bear, any thoughts on these awards?
No, but just a great job each and every one of them.
Meanwhile, checking in on here, we're tied at 7. We're about to not be. Kick is up and through. Valdosta State is the lead. We now move on to our top 25. Now, this might be the last top 25. There might be a change or two by the time we get to the BCS. We'll have to see. There's only one game next week, obviously. But the top 25, we start with our top two, which no surprise here, Michigan and Utah sitting up there. Number 3, the 12-1 Tulane Green Wave jump into the number 3 spot. Followed by Oregon, who is 10-2, didn't play in the conference championships, but is probably the best 10-2 team in the country. As number 5, right behind him, is Cincinnati. The Bearcats lost their conference championship, of course, to Temple. K-State and Oklahoma State are in right after them, the Big 12 champion and runner-up, respectively. Making a huge jump in the top 25, up 11 spots from last week, is Hawaii. With a jump like that, it's pretty certain that the committee is looking at Hawaii as a BCS team. Number 9, ACC champs Georgia Tech enter the top 10 for the first time this season. And wrapping out our top 10, even with the loss, San Jose State is still a top 10 squad, according to the committee. Number 11 is UCF, 10-2 out of the Big East, sitting right behind them. Number 12, Penn State of the Big 10. Number 13, Clemson. Number 14, Iowa. Number 15, Ohio State. Number 16, Indiana. Clemson sitting in between 4 Big 10 squads. Number 17, dropping like a stone from last week, is Rice with their loss. And ending this Big 10 block, Wisconsin, the 6th Big 10 team to be ranked this week. Number 19 is Texas A&M. Didn't play, of course. Auburn lost to Tulane. They fell down to number 20. Number 21, Tennessee, sat out, as did number 22, Oklahoma. Number 23, Wake Forest, fell like a stone after their 3rd loss of the year to Tech. And we wrap with 2 conference champions who kind of had to be ranked, given that prestigious award. Number 24, Temple, and number 25, Boise State. And I believe the 2KO history is not completely finished yet. I still need to do more about that. But I believe if Boise State is to make a BCS at this position, which they are locked in as the Mountain West gets AQ to the Fiesta Bowl this season, I believe that means that this will be the lowest ranked team to ever make a BCS Bowl. Sorry, I have something in my throat. Next teams considered for the rankings are BYU, Arizona, Michigan State, Southern Miss, James Madison, Southern Illinois, Columbia, Virginia Tech still somehow, USF, Louisiana Tech, Washington, Kansas, and UTSA. Thoughts on the top 25, Pig Bear?
I think it's fairly decent.
All right.
That's about it.
Thankfully, you don't have to worry about dozing up this time because we only have one more game to cover. And by extension, of course, it's our 2KU game of the week. On Saturday, a staple of college football. Last regular season game, Army-Navy. Both teams are entering 7-5. Navy has won the last 3 straight. Can Army break this streak this season? They are 3.5-point favorites, and Army has had a better resume this season. Navy doesn't want to shed this. Navy doesn't want to end this streak at any point. I believe Air Force has already clinched the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, so this one's just for pride. Coming on Saturday. Pig Bear, who do you have in this one? Army, Navy, send it home.
Navy.
Picking Navy, I gotta pick Army. Go Army, beat Navy. That's going to do it for us here tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. Or maybe we can actually wait. This show is not over yet. This game is not over yet. Let's at least finish this game.
Well, this game will be over with a touchdown pass, but or a run, but stuff.
I get to close my notes at least. A 3rd and goal, touchdown! I get to switch into my commentary mode. Valdosta State, a top team in the a top team not just in the Gulf South but in D2. They played in the Natty last season in D2, of course, losing to Pittsburgh State. Yep. Since this show is short, we'll let this game finish.
He'll try to tack on one more.
PAT up and good.
Point extends the lead to double figures at 10.
Here is on display to see Blue Ridge University. Pig Bear is the creator, as I was for Cullen Payton. Danny was for Fort Lauderdale. And of course, Dave was for Dave's show. Pig Bear, you want to give us a crash course on the Blue Ridge Bears?
I created them back, fairly decent, like, early 2020, way before COVID, like, a couple months before COVID. And, the uniforms have stayed the same, essentially. There's no been sizes from the very beginning. I based them off LSU's originally, so they kind of look like that.
I'm getting
So
South Dakota
obviously-
State.
Yeah, I see that, too.
What are some in-universe facts about Blue Ridge University?
In non-universe, they had a national championship in my original history I made for them, but I don't understand why they would have one, because they are a tiny school. But they historically started football in 1909. Originally were the Episcopal College offshoot of Shawnee, but that's why they're called Blue Ridge. But they got independent from Shawnee because they're the only other Episcopal college in the South.
Also, have you ever considered Blue Ridge Bruins as the nickname? BRU.
I did, but Bob Jones already has Bruins in the same city.
Ah. They're Greenville, South Carolina, right?
Yeah, Greenville, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I originally had them in a smaller town up in the mountains, but it made more sense having them in Greenville.
They're gonna go for it on fourth here, and he got it.
The checkerboard pattern is important to them because it symbolizes their mountain heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Rival-wise, Newberry, PC, and obviously they are on the same level, but they are very close. Furman, kind of.
They are moving
Also,
to D1 next season. They will likely be joining, reuniting with their old rivals in Presbyterian and Newberry.
Yes. And they have sort of been building a rivalry between Fort Lauderdale, well, in the couple of times they've met in the regular season. Also Anderson. Anderson's a new rival, but they've rival in other sports too.
Gonna air it to the sideline. Overthrows.
And obviously one day they would hope to get onto the levels of Clemson and South Carolina.
What other sports do they play well?
They've got they got a good baseball team, so they actually their transition to D1 probably won't be as stressful as everything else. And basketball is fairly good.
Bobbled, incomplete.
They are already D1 in wrestling and swimming though, as they compete in the SoCon for those.
All right. That was almost a pick. But another
And,
stop here, and that'll ice this one.
Do it. Well, I think the dagger was put in once it was 17, 10, 97.
It's going to be picked off, and that'll do it. Valdosta State's going to move on. Going back once again to the regional finals.
And yeah, they have a swimming rivalry with Queens in North Carolina,
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
And
Same
Valdosta
with
State will go to the regional finals, get the winner of Lenore Ryan and Carson Newman. They'll take the knee. That'll do it. There it is. Valdosta State moving on. And with that, Blue Ridge's D2 football tenure will come to a close. A bit of a bittersweet moment, but D1 is ahead. That's going to do it for us here. This time it's for real. Thank you all so much for watching, and so long from the 2KU. Don't forget to check out on championship weekend, of course. The D2 championship as well as the